Video is to go over lesson homework packet 6B, and so let's look at lesson 6.06, problem number 5. So we have triangle CTA, and we have 45 degrees and 45 degrees. And we have CT equals 17, and the goal is to find missing any angles and measure or side lengths. So what's missing? This is what's missing right here. How many degrees is that? You can easily find it because you know that triangle has 3 angles, and that add up to, those 3 angles add up to 180 degrees. And I want you also to realize that this triangle is a half of square, because this is not because imagine that you have another copy like this, right? Right here will be 45 plus 45. Here this will be 45 to 45, and this will be the same as this guy. So I want you to use that fact to find out this guy right here, TA. And then once you find it, you can use Pythagorean theorem, because this is Pythagorean theorem to find this guy. So that's problem number 5. So let's move on to lesson 6.07. Let's work on problem number 6. So problem number 6 says in triangle TUB. So let's do TUB. Okay. Measurement angle T is 90 degrees. Measurement angle U is 70 degrees. And TU is 8. So it's always nice to draw something like this every time you see math problems, if possible. Draw it, right? So this problem is very similar to the one that we just solved. This is not a half of the square. So we can find out what this guy is using the fact that 3 angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So it's going to be 90 degrees plus 70 degrees plus something has to be 180 degrees, right? What else can we find out? We can find out the other, this guy and this guy, by using the trigonometric ratio. So the trigonometric ratio says, so looking at examples on page 490, we can solve something like this. So here, how do I explain so that I don't have to give you too much, right? Well, so let's call this X, and let's call this theta, and let's call this Y, right? And if you look at this, for example, this way, this will be the angle, right? So we know that it's sine of whatever angle, for example, let's call this alpha, equals, right, run over hypotenuse, right? And we also know that cosine of the same angle is rise over hypotenuse. Oh, no, the other way around. Sine is rise, I'm sorry. Cosine is run. So in this case, we know what this is. We know what the run is. Run is 8. We don't know what the rise are, but we know what the alpha is in this case. So let's just plug that in. So cosine of 70 degrees, which you can find out by calculators, but if you don't have a calculators, you can always search it up and go to type sin or sine of 70 degrees. That's going to give you the answers, which is 0.77 whatever, right? That has to be equal to, which is run, which is 8, over hypotenuse, which is y. Okay, so let's look at put it this way. Oops, sorry. So the cosine of 70 degrees equals run over hypotenuse, which is 8 over y. And we just found out the cosine of 70 degrees is 0.77, whatever. It has to be equal to 8 over y. So we've got 8 over y, and if you solve this equation, do some math so that you get y equals something. Okay. Once you get that one, then you can find a x by Pythagorean theorem, right? Because if you get this one, and if this is 90 degrees, and if you know two missing angles, right? Square this one and square this one, add them, that has to be equal to square of this one. So that's lesson 6.07. And let's move on to lesson 6.08. Problem number 6. So we have a triangle ABC. And we have A, B, C, and the altitude from A to, well, we have D here. So A to D is 4 centimeter, and D to C is 3 centimeter. So the area of this is exactly 10.5. So area of this triangle is 10.5. And AD is 4 and DC is 3, and we're going to need to find the missing lengths, missing side lengths, and the angle measures. So we definitely have to use the trigs. Well, we can easily find BD because we know this area of 10.5 can be found out by base times height divided by 2. In this case, base is AC, right? And then we have height, right? AC is 8. So we can find the equation that 10.5 equals base, which is 8, times height divided by 2. We already know 8 divided by 2 is 4, so 4 times the height is 10.5. If you do some math and find out what the h is, right? Then we can use trig ratio, right? So the trig ratio again is sine of alpha, let's call this alpha right here, equals rise over hypotenuse. Okay? Cosine of the same angles, same degrees, is run over hypotenuse, and the tangent of that degree is rise over run, just like slope. So if you find BD, that's going to be exactly the same as rise, right? So this guy is going to be the rise, okay, for triangle ABD. Right, this is going to be rise. We are ignoring the triangle on the right. We're just looking for the triangle on the left because we want to find out what the AB is, right? So whatever we have over here, put that over run, which is 4, right? That is equal to tangent alpha. So we have learned that we need to, in order to find what the alpha is, or in order to cancel out this tangent, take inverse of tangents. Okay? So tangent inverse of this guy, whatever you get. Right? That divided by 4 will give you this. and take the tangent inverse of that. If you don't know how to, if you don't have a calculators, what you can do is, for example, you can do inverse tangent of whatever, whatever the number you get. So if you, for example, if it's 7/4, then it's going to give you that. Again, this is in radian, not again, but this is, actually make sure to put parentheses like this. Okay, and this is in radian, so make sure to put rad, or you can put this in degree. That's going to give you the degrees. Well, this is not the answer because that 7 is not the number that we get for this one. Okay, and that's how you get AB, and do this very similar, you know, they do the same process to find out BC. Oh, not BC, sorry. Do the same thing to find the beta. I'm sorry, this is find the angle of this. What we did here is to find this angle, right? Once you find it, once you find this one, then you know how to find this one from here to here, because if you add these two, I mean add 3 angles, you're gonna have that's gonna have to add to 180 degrees. Oops, sorry. And then do the same thing for the triangle on the right to find it. In order to find this one, AB, it's pretty easy, right? Because once you find this one, you can use Pythagorean theorem to find this one. Do the same thing to find this one too. So let's move on to lesson 6.09. Let's look at problem number 5. Let me erase this. So it says find the missing side length, angle measures, and area of triangle ACT. So we have this. Triangle cat. This is not a right triangle, I guess, because it doesn't say it. What we know is A to T is 23 centimeters, angle T is 37 degrees, T to C is 14 centimeters. So how can we find the rest of them? Okay, so what we could do is we can use what we learned in that chapter was not the law of cosine. Well, yeah, law of cosines. So we found out we can use c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b cosine of c, right? So which one's c and which one's a, right? That's the hardest part. But what do you think? Right? This c has to be degrees. So let's replace with it. It's 37 degrees. If this is angle C, right, C has to be this one, right, because it's opposite. So we cannot replace C squared with that. So A and B has to be 23 and 14. So plug that in. A for 23, B for 14. And do it out, then you get c squared. So if you do the right side, you get whatever, right? But you want to know what the c is, so make sure to take square root of it. So that's going to give you c. Okay? In order to find this guy, this angle, if you call this angle A, then we'll have another formula. We have to switch around. So we want to know what the angle A is, so we're going to use A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C and a cosine of angle A. So we don't know what the cosine of angle A is, but we know what the angle A, we know what the A is. So let's replace with it. It's 14. We know what B is 23. And after you do this one, you know what the C is. So let's replace it. Square root of whatever right there, right? Let's replace everything. B was 23. C was this guy, right? Do it out and solve for cosine A, right? So if you do this part, and if you do, then you get what? Once you get this one, you got to subtract this guy from both sides, right? So we'll have 14 squared minus 14 squared minus whatever this guy is, which equals 2 times this guy times cosine of A. Now what you have to do is you got to divide this by 2 because you want to cancel that out, and you want to divide this by whatever you get here, or whatever this is, You gotta well, you have negative, so you got to divide that by this guy. You got to do that both sides. So now you get cosine of A equals whatever this is, whatever that is. Now you want to cancel out cosine, right? You know you need to take inverse of it. Of course, you have to do both sides. So A is going to be inverse cosine of whatever you get here on the left side of it. So that's 6.9, and this is it.